New word today from a member of Congress on the depositions already conducted in the Jeffrey Epstein scandal investigation. Here's what Oversight Committee member Yasemin Ansari told me just a short time ago.
What I can say in full confidence is that in none of the depositions were any of these individuals able to clear the president of wrongdoing. And I think that really gets to the heart of the matter here, is that there is a cover up underway and there is a clear attempt by the administration to forego responsibility and evade the truth and prolong this as long as possible.
Shelby Christine Marker back with me. Christy, what do you make of that response?
Well, simply getting into an interview and saying, for Maxwell and saying that, she didn't see or hear Donald Trump do anything wrong is pretty meaningless, because she said she didn't see or hear anyone doing anything wrong, including Jeffrey Epstein and including herself. And she was convicted at trial. So it's meaningless. I don't think that anybody should take anything from that statement. And, as that individual said, that there are depositions that are not showing anybody clearing anything. So really, the only way to get more information is to hear from the victims, which apparently we will this week, and also to get the complete Epstein files, not what's already been made public, but the complete Epstein files, so that we can see the accounts of the victims and not just the account of the person who trafficked them.
So, Mark, The Guardian is reporting on the transcripts of the Todd Blanche, Ghislaine Maxwell meetings. And they say Maxwell hinted at Epstein's ties to Trump officials, but Blanche never pressed her for names, even when he asked whether high-profile and powerful men around Epstein were associated with him for the purpose of sexual encounters. And her reply was that some of the, quote, cast of characters around Epstein were, quote, in your cabinet who you value as co-workers. Again, this from The Guardian. How do you interpret that?
Well, it's pretty tantalizing in some ways. I think we are probably going to learn a lot more this week, which is pretty, I think, distinctive, because in recent weeks, there really haven't been that many developments on this story. There have been a lot of things that obviously the administration has done that Democrats have immediately said, oh, you're just trying to distract us from the Epstein files. But this is actually a substantive and potentially very damaging development that could become really big news in the next few days. So obviously the White House is going to be really worried about this. Look, we don't know what we're going to learn. Obviously it seems pretty clear that the administration is worried about this, and I think Republicans on the Hill are going to work as hard as they can in the service to keeping this as hidden as possible. Unclear if they'll be able to do that this week or if it'll continue beyond this week.
So, Christy, you pointed out that Maxwell didn't exactly clear Trump in those transcripts. What did you learn from going through them, and why didn't Blanche press her for names?
That's the $64,000 question. Any prosecutor who actually was looking to potentially build a case, get investigative leads, try to vet her story, figure out if she was telling the truth, would have her actually go through what each of the victims said about her, go through those allegations, and then press her with contradictory evidence, like her, black book, like, essays that she had written saying she was very close to Epstein when she said in her interview that she was not, press her on those inconsistencies. But that's not what happened. He really, at multiple points, seemed to buy into her account that she wasn't as close to him, that, maybe there were misperceptions by the public about her. And, it wasn't clear why, based on anything she said, he would be taking her word for it. He at one point said, I'm not asking you for any corroborating evidence. Again, that's what you need. So the only reason, and then he said to her also that what she said was helpful to him, that everything was great. Well, helpful to who? Not to the victims, not to the public. The only person it was arguably helpful for was Donald Trump, which really begs the question, was Todd Blanche in there as a prosecutor, or was he in there as Donald Trump's personal defense attorney? Because that's how he was acting. A prosecutor would not act that way in the interview. We learned absolutely nothing. All she did was deny everything. It wasn't helpful to anybody but Trump. So you have to really question his motives there.
So the survivors are looking ahead to Wednesday's bipartisan press conference at the Capitol. Take a listen to some new reaction today.
I'm continued to be appalled at the release and just the entire situation surrounding this interview with Ghislaine Maxwell, it is absolutely, it goes so far beyond throwing salt on wounds or anything like that. It's entirely destructive to survivors such as myself that had gone through personal experience with her.
Shelby, as Mark was saying, we won't know until we know what is said on Wednesday. But what are you expecting to hear? And do you have any anticipation of what the White House reaction will be?
I expect the White House to be watching it closely, but I'm not convinced that they're going to have a public reaction in any way whatsoever. You have seen how this administration has, right after the DOJ and the FBI signed that 2-page memo saying that this was effectively closed, they've tried to sort of distance themselves from it. And even as they have pushed, because of the backlash from their base, for more things to be released, they're throwing it back on the FBI. And so in that sense, they're able to say, okay, we've done our job here. Now it's the FBI's job. Go ask them. And so that's intentional. Now, in terms of what I'm looking for, I think that this is going to be really interesting because remember, Ghislaine Maxwell, one of the big criticisms is that she is an unreliable witness. She has lied before. And so that was one of the things that these victims were pointing out. And so I think it's important that you have these victims who are able to tell their stories in their own words as to what happened back then.
Okay, Shelby and Christy and Mark, good to see all three of you. Thank you guys so much.